All right, so we're going to kick off our Monday sales meetings. We're going to talk about listings. I know, crazy. But we're going to do it anyways. So I have here 12 words or phrases that can help you become a better listing agent. Now, even if you're already a great listing agent, can we all agree that more is better? Can all agree? Great. Okay. So even if you're at this level of a listing agent, we can get more, and that's better. And if you're not a listing agent, if you've never taken a listing in your life, that's okay, because everyone had to start at 1 at some point. So now this is the steps, words, phrases that can help you start with 1 and go on from there. That's the beauty of this, is that no matter where you're at, these are things that can help you take it to the next level, no matter what level you're already currently at. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So 12 words or phrases that can help you become a better listing agent. The first one I wrote down, well, let me back up. Disclaimer, as always, these are not in any order of importance. They're just the way they're written down. So you don't have to follow them in this particular order. The first one I wrote down here is decision/responsibility. Decision/responsibility. And what I wrote down underneath that, this is going to sound simple, but hear me out on it. You have to make a valid decision to list property rather than work with buyers. Accept the responsibilities that go with listing property. The listing agent has to show the property, prospect for buyers, negotiate the contracts, meet the appraiser, contact escrow, etc. The buyer's agent has to bring the buyer to the property and submit the offer. So you have to make the decision to be a listing agent if you want to become a listing agent or become a better listing agent. Now that sounds simple because, well, yeah, of course I want to be a listing agent, but sometimes we don't have the mentality of doing that. We just have the mentality of I'll take a deal, and that's fine. Sometimes you have to take a deal, but you have to make a mental decision that I am going to focus on being a listing agent. That's the goal. That's where the energy is going to. And if I stumble upon the buyers, then I can work with the buyers, but I'm not just a real estate agent, I'm a listing agent. So you have to make the mental shift to do that. But to do that, you have to accept the responsibilities, because the truth is, one of the reasons, and some of you might think this is crazy, but this is the truth. One of the reasons agents like working with buyers is because they don't want the added work. Now, I know that may be hard for you, some of you believe, but let me share some other news. There's a lot of real estate agents that didn't get into real estate to work. I know, wild, but that's just the reality of the world we're in. But that's why most agents aren't listing agents, because A, they don't have the mentality, they didn't make a decision to be a listing agent, and B, they don't want the work. I can be a buyer's agent and not really have to be that full-time of an agent, because a buyer can find the property themselves, tell me they want to go see it. I just have to contact the agent to schedule the showing, show the buyer, and then write up an offer and hope that it gets accepted. Now, that's all you do, but that's all you could have to do. You don't have to accept the responsibility of listing the property. Well, what happens if it doesn't sell? Then it's my responsibility. Because as a buyer's agent, if the offer doesn't get accepted, you could just blame the market. If it doesn't sell as a listing agent, it's your fault. You can't blame the market because the seller's never going to buy that. You have to prospect for buyers. You have to negotiate the contracts. You have to meet the appraiser. There's more work that goes into it. So you have to make that commitment. You have to make that decision and accept that responsibility of being a listing agent over a buyer's agent. So that's the first thing I wrote down here. The second word/phrase I wrote down is 18 months. 18 months. What 18 months represents, I wrote down, commit the next 18 months to learning everything you can about being a great listing agent. So, first of all, here's the question you have to ask. Do you plan on being in real estate in 18 months? Okay. So, okay, good. So we got a few of you. The others of you are either not paying attention or you're not sure. Different conversation. We'll figure it out. Okay. So commit the next 18 months to learning everything you can about being a great listing agent. So this is something that really resonated with me. Okay. Mike said this at one of the retreats. He says, if you go to high school and college, get a master's degree, go get your PhD, that's 12 to 14 years in education to set you up to make $100,000 plus. And yet, if you commit the next 18 months to studying and being educated on being a great listing agent, you can exceed that. So commit to 18 months. Now, the reason you have to commit to 18 months is because, one, we get impatient. I want to be a great listing agent today, or I want to be a better listing agent today. Okay, well, start the process. But if you're not the top listing agent in your marketplace next week, it doesn't mean that the plan's failed. Doesn't mean it can't be done. If you're still not getting the listing appointments you want, if you're still not getting the listing contract signed you want 6 months from now, it's part of the process. It's an 18-month process to really take your listing agent skills to the next level if you commit to doing everything you can. So what could that necessarily be? Well, that could be studying scripts. How well do you know the listing presentation? If, you know, Mike's version of knowing a script is that if he woke you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and asked you the question, could you just go with it? Now, some of you, if I called you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd curse at me and then you might go with the script, but you know, that's a different story. Okay. Do you know the presentation that well? Do you know the objection handlers? How well are you working on the presentation of the objection handlers? How well do you know your market? Do you know all the nuances of the different neighborhoods in your market? Do you know all the things that are being built, all the things that are being torn down? Okay. Do you work on your presentation ability? I know the script, but can you present? Do you work on your presentation ability? Do you work on personality styles? There's a variety of different things you can work on, but commit the next 18 months to learning everything you can about being a great listing agent. The third thing I wrote down here, third word / phrase, is listing oriented. Listing oriented. And what I wrote down under that is create a listing oriented schedule. Create a listing oriented schedule. Most real estate agents don't have a schedule. So the question is, do you want to be schedule free or do you want to make a lot of money? Because you can't have both. Well, Robert, I didn't get into real estate to have a schedule. I got in for freedom and flexibility, which, as you know, are the two F words of real estate. I got in for freedom and flexibility. I don't have a schedule. Okay, great. You will also be very flexible on your time because you won't have any appointments to go on, and you will certainly be free from money. So you've accomplished your freedom and flexibility. You can't have both. If you want to be a great listing agent, you need a listing oriented schedule. So I wrote down here, create a schedule. Don't worry yet if you don't have a schedule, or you have one, but you're not sure if it's any good. Don't worry about the specifics yet. Just create a schedule. And the schedule has to have a start time and an end time. It's got to have both. Now, why is that important? Because if you don't have a start time, you can be as lazy as you want in the morning. And if you don't have an end time, you can be as lazy as you want throughout the day because you'll tell yourself, I have time. I have the whole day. That is no way to do things. So you have to have a start time and you have to have end time. Well, I want to start at 8 and I'd really like to be off at 4, but I don't know. Can I be off at 4? Yeah, you can be off at 4. If you work until 4, you can be off at 4. Valerie Caro does it. Brianne Green does it. There's a number of agents that do it. If you want to be home, if you want to end your day at 6, you want to end your day, whatever. Okay. But you need a start timing and end time. So figure that out. but you need to create a schedule that you can follow. Now, here's the other thing. Be realistic with the schedule. Because here's the truth. Some of you can't get up early enough to start your day at 7:30. It's just a fact. Okay? That's just a fact. Some of you can't, some of you have responsibilities, so you can't work until 7 o'clock at night. So be realistic with your schedule. Don't create the schedule that you think that I would want you to create or Neil would want you to create. I read this agent has this schedule. Everyone's different. Everyone has different responsibilities. Be realistic with the schedule, but create a schedule and then work with your coach on kind of figuring out the nuances. And remember, a schedule can change. Sometimes a schedule is just trial and error. Well, let's try it this way. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, where do we need to make the adjustments? Now, on a side note, once you have a schedule, bring it to every listing appointment. Because some of you do this. Some of you have taken my advice on this and some of you don't, and that's okay. But I strongly believe that if you bring a schedule to a listing appointment, they say, well, I'm also going to interview so-and-so. Okay, great. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, did they give you a copy of their schedule like I gave you mine? No, they didn't give me a copy of their schedule. Oh, wow. Can I tell you why that concerns me? Sure. Well, they probably don't have one. See, most people in real estate, the truth is, Mr. and Ms. Seller, they're independent contractors. They don't have to follow a schedule. It means they can show up whenever they want. They can leave whenever they want. They can do whatever they want. For your biggest financial asset, do you want someone that has that kind of, non-caring attitude about their daily schedule? Or do you want someone who follows a strict CEO type schedule? I want that. Great. Sign the contract. Some of you won't do that. So we'll just move on. Okay. The fourth thing I wrote down, fourth phrase / word I wrote down, 80% production based. 80% production based. So underneath that, I wrote down, make a schedule where 80% of your time is based on production-based activities. So I wrote down here, your schedule needs to have the following. It needs to have prospecting, needs to have lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, preparation, presentation. You need to have prospecting, you need to have lead follow-up, you need to have pre-qualifying, preparation, presentation. That has to be in your schedule every day. And I wrote down, if you did these 5 things every day, 4 to 5 hours a day, would you list more property? The answer is yes. If you don't know, the answer is yes.
That was a lot. Can you say that one more time?
Yep. The following has to be in your schedule: prospect, lead follow-up, pre-qualify, preparation, presentation. Those 5 things need to be in your schedule every day. And your schedule has to be 80% production based. So what does that mean? That means 80% of your time needs to be on these types of activities. Negotiating contracts would also be another one. Because that's the job, is you have to be in production-based activities. If you're not in production-based activities, then you're not going to get enough listings to become that great listing agent that you're trying to be. What are non-production-based activities, but might be necessary? Admin on the transactions. Okay, you have to do it. It's not really a production-based activity, but it is something you have to do. Okay, you might need to, follow through on your emails, voicemails, kind of deal with all that kind of stuff. That's non-production-based activities, but something that you need to do. Okay. But you need to do these other things. That's part of the day. So the question I wrote down is, are you spending 80% of your workday on these activities? And if you're not, then we need to readjust the schedule or have an honest conversation with yourself. Now, here's the thing I wrote down here. Sometimes things get in the way and you have to handle something, and it may not be an 80% every day. But the reality is things don't get in the way every day. And they don't get in the way often. We create it. Oh, I gotta put out a fire. No, you don't. Get on the phone and go prospect. We have an escrow issue. You're not an escrow officer. We got a lending issue. You're also not a lender. Go prospect, go preview property, go pre-qualified, go do lead follow-up. Let the other people who are getting paid for that job earn their paycheck. You go spend more time on production-based activities. That's the key thing.
This is gold.
All right, number 5, I wrote down the process. The process. I wrote down learn and understand the listing process, which is actually really easy. Understanding why they respond the way they do and understanding to respond to them to keep them moving forward towards a contract is hard. So I write it down here. Learning the listing process is easy. Understanding why they respond the way they do and understanding how to respond to them to keep them moving toward a contract is hard. But there's 5 steps to the listing process. If you've been around Mike or myself or Neil for any length of time, you know the 5 steps. Number 1 is pre-qualify, no exceptions. Pre-qualify, no exceptions. They're a past client, pre-qualify. They've been my best friend for 30 years, pre-qualify. They're my mother, pre-qualify, twice. No exceptions, 100% of the clients, 100% of the time. Okay, you have to pre-qualify. Number 2, mail or deliver a non-ego pre-listing package. Some of you have done a great job of creating some pre-listing packages. We have some options. Jocelyn in our company does a great job of helping people with pre-listing packages. There's all kinds of other people out there, other sources out there that can help with pre-listing packages. Okay, but mail them a pre-listing package. The minimum in a pre-listing package is the contract that they need to sign, a net sheet at what they're going to get after closing, your plan of action, and a CMA. That's the minimum. Now you could put some marketing material in there. You can, all these other different things, you could do that. If you want to put a little bio about yourself, that's fine. A bio real estate related. They don't care that you grew up in South Tennessee and you know that your dad was a mechanic and your mom was a florist and you know you went to this elementary school and you had 2 dogs. One was a golden retriever. They don't care. If you want to create a real estate bio, that's fine. Okay, but that's the basic of a pre-listing package. Step 3 is you're going to call and confirm that they got the package, that they read it, and then call and confirm that the appointment is still on. Hey, just want to make sure you got the pre-listing package. Yeah, I did. Did you read it? Yeah, we scanned through it. Okay, great. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock still work? Tomorrow at 6 o'clock still works. Great. Doesn't have to be complicated. When you call back and confirm, you're not doing the presentation. That's one of the biggies, is we call and confirm, and then we get in presentation mode. I'm just calling to confirm that you got the package and that tomorrow at 6 still works, or whenever the appointment is. Step 4, show up 15 minutes early. You don't have to be at their door 15 minutes early, but be in the neighborhood, be in the house, be around the house. Here's why. 1, if you're already there, you can relax, mentally prepare yourself before you go to the door so you're not rushing. You don't want to be rushed. Two, if you get there early, you can drive around. Maybe there's something in the neighborhood that might help or hurt their value. Maybe there's a for sale by owner that you didn't see. Maybe a property just got listed that day after you did the CMA. So you can kind of drive around and be a little more comfortable with the area. Because you might not know that there's a for sale by owner 2 doors down, but the seller does. And they're going to ask you about it. So it's better if you get there early, see that there's a for sale by owner, and you're like, oh, let me look this up real quick. And then step 5, it's showtime. Read the script verbatim. It's a very simple process. There's no reason to alter it in any way, okay? You pre-qualify, you do the pre-listing package, you call back and confirm, you show up 15 minutes early, showtime, read the script verbatim. We'll get into another class as to why that's more important and some of the hiccups or some of the reasons we fight that, but just learn and understand the process. All right, number 6, I wrote down support. And underneath that, I wrote down create a listing support group for yourself. So a listing support group for yourself, which could be role play partners. Now, role playing once or twice a week is not enough. You want to be great, you have to role play more. Role playing 15 minutes a day is good, but it's not enough. Find more time to role play, 30 minutes to an hour a day minimum. I would even recommend for some people going even beyond that, especially if you're newer. We hear it all the time from Tony Smith, Zach Baer, all these other different people that were practicing 1 to 2 hours a day to start their career. Okay, so you need to be your role play partners, but your role play partners need to be accessible. Because otherwise we go, well, my role play partner on Monday, they flaked out, so I didn't role play on Monday. Okay, how often does this happen? I don't know, every so often. Get a new role play partner. There are 1.3 million people with a real estate license. Find one. Let's role play on Monday. This shouldn't be hard. Okay. Now we have our role play group in the morning, 8 to 8:30, rapid fire 8:30 to 9. If you're doing that, that's great. Okay. That's one of the benefits of that program is that you always have a role play partner. Okay. But you also need to find listing presentation role play partners. I wrote down here at least once a week. At least once a week, but maybe more. Role play and record your listing presentation. And then watch it, send it to your coach or your accountability partners or someone like that to make sure that you're getting better at it. That's a key thing. So the role play partners. I wrote down here accountability partners. As part of your listing support group, do you have accountability partners that you have to check in with weekly, daily, whatever the case may be? You need those accountability partners, but you need an accountability partner that will hold you accountable. They don't have to be mean. Okay. This is the hardest part about accountability is people think, oh, well, to hold them accountable, I have to be mean. Why didn't you do that? Well, no. The truth is, here's sometimes all you need to do with being an accountability partner is ask why. So they have to come up with an excuse as to why they didn't do it. That's really sometimes all you need. So an accountability partner could be, well, okay, my goal, I have to make 30 just listed calls today. See if I can find another listing. Okay, great. Hey, did you make the 30 calls? No, I didn't make it. Well, why not? Now they, oh, well, you know, this and that. Now they have to come up with some excuse. And all I did was ask why not. Doesn't have to be mean, doesn't have to be rude, but it just can't be someone that goes, oh, that's okay, you'll get them tomorrow. That's not a good accountability partner. And I wrote down here, third, participating in a mastermind group. There's the difference. I get this question sometimes. What's the difference between a mastermind group and an accountability partner? An accountability partner is just someone you give tasks to that if you don't do it, they're going to hold you accountable. Mastermind group is when you're kind of in a group of 1 to more people, you're discussing ideas. Okay. You're coming up with thoughts, solutions. Hey, are you running into that? Are you running into this? How'd this go? Did that work? you're sharing ideas amongst each other. Now, your accountability group could also be your same mastermind group, but there's a difference. That's the difference. So you have to create a listing support group for yourself, because we will let ourselves off the hook. We will give ourselves excuses as to why we're not doing the work, why we're not getting the listings. All right, number 7, I wrote down referral community. Referral community. I wrote down build a referral community within your database. Build a referral community within your database. I wrote down the 10% rule. Whatever number is in your database, that 10% of that is how many transactions it should yield over the next 12 months. Meaning that if you have 100 people in your database, that database should give you 10 transactions over the next 12 months. Okay. If you have 50, then you should have 5. If you have 1,000, you should have 100. But you should be getting 10% of your database, and probably at a bare minimum, 35% of your income, but probably higher, 35 to 50% of your income, and maybe even higher, should be coming from your database.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
When you said you should have 10%, if you do what? I mean, I know there has to be an action. There has to be an action that follows a result.
Great question. So here's the way that Neil has built up the database system to make sure you're getting the most results. Because as the numbers show all the time, basically, give or take a couple percentage points every year, 75% of people are willing to use the same agent again, and only 23% of people do. Okay, so there's a massive gap, which means number one, okay, here's the key on getting referrals from your database. Number one, lie number one, they know I'm in real estate. That's lie number one. Lie number two is, oh, they'll call me if they need anything. That's lie number two. So part of building 10% from your database is, one, stop telling the lies that you have, that those things. Lie number three is this. Well, all my business comes from referrals, so I'm already working my database. That's lie number three, because chances are, even though your business comes from referrals, that means you probably could be getting more. So we have to accept that. So here's the basic system that Neil's put together over the years to make sure that you're at that 75%, not the 23. Number one is to email weekly. Doesn't have to be hand typed, specific. Hey, John, how are the kids? And this, and that. Doesn't have to be that. Okay. Get them on an email campaign where you're just sending out some sort of real estate article or something every single week. They're probably not going to open it. Don't be upset. Neil Schwartz owns Century 21 Masters. He's the owner. And his email open rate is about 32%. He owns the company, and yet when he sends out an email, only a third of people go, all right, let's see what he has to say. Okay, so don't be upset that they're not going to open it. But what's going to happen is that every week you're there. Boom, 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 boom. I get an email from Robert every week. And if they do open it, then it's some sort of real estate article that they just read about. And, it doesn't have to be crazy. Okay. Cindy finds an article. She sends it out typically. Actually, it just went out today. There was an article that Cindy found and we emailed it to all the agents. You can use that as what you mail out, but just email them every week. The second thing is to mail or hand deliver monthly. So a postcard, a flyer, some sort of newsletter that they can read, something along those lines. Now, you don't have to go crazy again with the design, because this is what's going to happen, right? And we all do this. We're all guilty of this. Mail comes in, starts in this hand, and it goes like this. Oh, and it gets transferred to this hand. Oh, way to go, Robert. Okay, great. And then you go back to this hand. So don't overthink it. Don't try to come up with the magical postcard, but it's that 5-second impression of boom, you're right there, and they're touching it. See, the email they can't touch, the phone call they can't touch. Now they're touching something. Okay. And
hey, Robert.
Yep.
I'm just saying, you're saying about the 3 lies. it could be the 4 lie. I don't call them because they get upset or they think that I'm desperate.
Yeah, that's true. That's also, there you go. That's true, Mike. That's also a lie. Is, well, you know, I don't want to beg for business. Okay. Well, if you don't call your database, you're going to be begging for money on the street corner, but you know, whatever works for you. So, you know, mailing once a month. And then the third thing is to call every 2 months. And the basics of the phone call, there's 2 things that have to occur in every phone call. Okay. Number 1, you have to provide some sort of value. That's why we do that script. Want to let you know that 45 homes have closed in the area of Walnut or whatever city they're in the last 30 days. 5 or 6 other people might sell right away. Who do you know that might, you know, whatever. But you could talk about interest rates. You could talk about the market. You could talk about something you've listed. If you have listings or sales, you need to talk about that because they need to know you're working.
Quick question, Robert.
Yep.
Chris, is there a standard or at least some kind of like a standard quality or who should you put into your database to get follow-up and mail out and so on and so forth?
Great question. The basics. So the basic rule of your database that you should count as database is if you call them, they know who you are. That's someone who counts as your database. Now, there might be other people, like when you're making a just listed call or something like that, and you tell the person, hey, do you mind if I keep you updated of what's going on in the marketplace? And they say yes. That person's still going to get a phone call, but they might not be considered part of that 10% database just yet until they get to the point when you call, they're like, oh, hey, Chris, how's it going? But they need to know who you are. That's really, that's why, you know, that's why, Chris, sometimes when I talk to people and they'll say, well, I have 1,000 people in my database. I'm like, no, you don't. Okay. You know, you have 1,000 LinkedIn connections. You have 1,000 friends on Facebook or followers or something like that, but they're probably not all people that if you called them, they would know who you are. That's the basic rule. Great question.
So the people who knows you, you probably want to spend a little money mailing something physical to them versus the one that just on the phone call, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why for the money aspect of things, that's why it's really important. You're only mailing to people who are in your real database.
Yeah, A group. Got it.
Yep. Good question. So on the call every 2 months, you're giving them some sort of value. And then 2, you're asking them who they know. Because not everybody's looking to buy or sell, but they all know someone. They know a couple people that are looking to buy or sell. So that's why it's always, this is what's going on. Who do you know that might be looking to buy or sell? Who do you know? Who? Those are the 2 basics to get that 10. So if you follow that system, email weekly, mail monthly, call every 2 months. If you follow that system and you do it with energy, enthusiasm, and some sort of competence, you should be getting a genuine return. Now, you might not be right at 5% because everyone's, you know, database might be different, but you should be getting a decent return on your database from that, at least better than what the average is. So good question. Good question. Now, the last thing I'll point out on that, and then we'll move on to point 8. If someone gives you a referral, so let's say you call them, hey, who do you know that might be looking to buy or sell? Oh, my neighbor's looking to sell, actually. They give you a referral. The next question has to be, who else? The biggest area we miss on referrals is we take the one and, oh, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Do you mind if I get their number? Yeah, here's their number. And you're like, wow, thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. Hey, look, if you need anything, let me know. And then you're off to get the neighbor. Meanwhile, they might have had 1 or 2 others in their pocket. And if you had just said, well, who else do you know? Well, actually, do you work with buyers? Yeah, if they're motivated. Well, yeah, I know someone. Oh, okay, great. Well, who else do you know? And you just keep going and going and going. We miss referrals by taking the one and running and not saying who else. Key thing. All right, number 8, I wrote down 5-6. 5-6. And I wrote down underneath that, you need to have multiple sources of prospecting. Now, here's the key. This is the key line. I don't care what they are, just as long as you're communicating with people. Because the question is going to come up, well, what are the sources I should be working? I don't care. Find multiple sources and communicate with them. Pick ones that you're willing to commit to learning a script, to commit to learn an objection handler. Don't call expireds if you're not going to practice the script and objection handler every day. Don't call for sale by owners if you're not going to work on the scripts and objection handlers every day. Don't call probates if you're not going to learn how probates work. But if you want to, and you say, you know what, no, I want to go after for sale by owners, I'm going to work on the script and objection handler, then go after for sale by owners. I don't care what the sources are, but you need to have multiple sources of business, because no matter what, some point, some of the sources are going to slow down. Even as great as databases are sometimes, there are times when just the way the world works, the database is slow at that particular given moment. So if you don't have a couple other sources that you're working at a high level, you're not going to have the consistency. All right. And I wrote down here, number 9, aggressive. Aggressive. And I wrote below that, a commitment to a real aggressive lead follow-up system. A commitment to a real aggressive lead follow-up system. I wrote down here in all caps underneath that, urgency, in all caps, urgency. Be more urgent with your leads. Be more urgent with your leads. We talked a lot about lead follow-up last week, so I won't go into too much detail of that today. But this is a Mike Ferry quote. There are more deals lost from lack of lead follow-up than there are from lack of prospecting. There are more deals lost from lack of lead follow-up than there are from lack of prospecting. You've got to be aggressive with the leads. So I wrote down here, first you have to define what a lead is. Is it a lead, or is it just someone that you're staying in touch with? If they're selling in 6 months, it's not really a lead. Now I'm staying in touch with them because I want to get the listing, but it's not really a lead. Okay. But you have to define now, because your definition might not be someone who's looking to buy or sell in the next 7 to 10 days. Your definition of a lead typically depends on your production level. So for some people that have a large inventory, a lead to them might be 7 to 10 days. But if you're building your business, a lead might be 2 to 3 months. Okay. So, and all of them are fine, because even the people that are now at 7 to 10 days started with leads that were 2 to 3 months. So you have to build up at some point. Okay. But you have to define what a definition of a lead is to you. And then you have to be more aggressive. You have to be more aggressive. I don't really get many calls, maybe 1 or 2 a year, and Cindy could probably attest to this as well, of can you please tell your agent to stop following up with me? Okay. Now I'm glad in a way because you're respectful. Yay. I'm also a little bit nervous that maybe we're not following up the way as aggressive as we should. Okay. You have a lead, you have to go get it. Be aggressive. Now, here's mine. I've shared this before, but here's my rule on lead follow-up. I lay out all my leads, Sunday or Monday, whatever day you want to start your week or the day before, lay them all out. Where are they at in the process? Okay, this is a listing lead that I have to follow up with and set an appointment. This is a buyer lead that's getting pre-qualified. Okay, great. I have 1 week to move them to the next step in the process. They don't have to go all the way to contract, but they have to move to the next step. So I'm going to reach out to them 4 times over the next week, at least 3 phone calls and 1 text message if they don't answer. Now, if they're answering and responding, then I don't have to call them every day, but I'm going to reach out 4 times. And then now here comes Sunday of next week. And I say, okay, where was this lead last week? Well, this lead was a follow-up. I need to set a listing appointment. I reached out to them 4 times. They didn't respond to me. Obviously, they're not that motivated. I'm moving them off my lead board because they didn't move forward. Now, what about this one? This one right here was a buyer lead that was getting pre-approved. They got pre-approved. We scheduled to go see property. Cool. They moved forward. Again, we haven't seen property yet. We haven't obviously opened up escrow, but they moved forward a step. That's my definition. That's how I do things. That doesn't make it right. I'm just giving you an idea. Okay, but that's aggressively follow up. Number 10, I wrote down standards. I wrote down, you need to set standards for yourself, and you have to follow the standards that you set. You need to set standards for yourself and follow the standards that you set. For example, here's an example of some standards. You're going to pre-qualify 100% of the clients. That should be a standard. But here would be an advanced standard. You call to pre-qualified, they don't answer. Do you still go to the appointment or not? So a standard could be, if they don't answer when I try to pre-qualify them, I'm not going. I'm not going until I pre-qualify them. That could be a standard. Standard could be the length of the listing contracts. Now, typically 6 months is the listing contract, but is anyone really going to deny a listing that wants to go in 3 months right now? No. And if you do, tell me, I'll go take it. Robert, I am not going to take that 3-month listing. Great. What's the address? I'll call him right now. But maybe there's a minimum of your listing contract. I'm not taking a 1-month contract. I'm not taking a whatever the case may be. So maybe there's a standard for your length of your listing contract. Is there a standard to the commission that you're getting? Is there a standard to the commission you're getting? Not the commission you want, the minimum commission you'll take. Now, here's the other question you have to ask. Is there a minimum commission / dollar amount I'm willing to take? Because for some of you that are working in higher priced areas, you might take a $2.5 million listing and they say, well, you want 2%, and they're saying, I'll pay you 1.5. Okay, well, $2.5 million, 1.5%, I'm at like 40 grand of commission. You're probably not going to walk away from that, which is fine. So you have to make a decision on the standard of commission / amount of money per deal. Okay, like you would never do that, hopefully, on a $400,000 listing where they said, well, I want to do it for 1%. You're like, well, it's 4 grand. No, don't do that. Okay, so you have to make a decision on how much commission. But here's the key. The standard is on your commission. Don't put standards on what you're paying the buyer's agent. I understand we would love to be fair, but that's not always the world we live in. Okay. I wrote down here under commission. It's possible to make money if you provide amazing customer service, show a lot of value. It's okay to charge a lot of money. It's okay to charge a lot of money. All right, I wrote down here, maybe, is there a certain price overpriced that you're willing to take or not take? Meaning that we're all guilty of taking a listing even though it's slightly overpriced. Okay, that's common. It's not a big deal. But is there a limit? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Is it, I don't care what percent, I'm going to take it? You know, I don't know the answer, but that's a standard you could set for yourself. I would try not to go over 5%.
Can I ask a quick question about good customer service?
Yep.
Okay, so good customer service, in my head, I mean, you know, you return phone call in time, you know, you give them the right information. I mean, what is the standard? What is good customer service? Like, you know, the basic things that we do, I'm assuming that's good customer service, but what's more?
You know what, Chris, I actually have a whole thing on that. I'll send over to you.
Okay, thanks.
It's a great question. I turned that into a whole class called exceptional customer service. I have all that. I'll send that over to you.
Okay.
Good stuff. I'm not avoiding the question. I'm just up against time.
No, I
understand. So those are just different things, but it's a great question. And actually, we should probably bring that back. Okay. So those are certain standards that you have to have. So write out your standards. What are your standards? Make them, again, just like we talked about with your schedule, it has to be realistic. Don't create standards that you're like, oh gosh, you know, Robert might not like this. Neil might not like this. My accountability partner might not like this. Standards that you can follow that are realistic for you. Okay, and write those down. All right, I'm already over time, but I'll run through the last two real quick. I wrote down number 11 is celebrate. And what I mean by that and celebrate is you have to enjoy the wins. You have to enjoy the wins, because if you don't enjoy the wins, all the other steps that we talked about become very tiring and very frustrating. So you have to enjoy the wins. Now, don't do the appointment dance or the close dance where you close a deal and then I don't see you for 6 months. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, hey, look, I'm doing good. I got to win. I got excited. Yeah. All right. You know, you're pumped up. You're excited. You're telling people about it. You got a smile on your face. Enjoy the wins. You work hard. This is hard. This is hard to do. So when you get it, enjoy it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Way to go. And the last thing I wrote down here is numbers. Number 12 is numbers. This is pretty simple. Okay. If you want to be a great listing agent and list property at a very high level, you have to know your numbers. You have to track your numbers. You have to know your numbers, and you have to be honest about your numbers. Numbers as far as how many contacts you make in a day, how many hours are you prospecting? Numbers as far as what sources are you working? How much time are you spending per source? What percentage of your business is coming from each source? How much time are you door knocking versus how much time are you calling? What percentage of your business is coming from calls or door knocking? All these little things. How long is your average listing presentation? What's your closing ratio on appointments you go on? What's your no-show ratio? You have to know the numbers. You have to track all these little numbers. And if you fill out a numbers analyzer, it kind of does all the formulas for you. So whether it's a Mike Ferry numbers analyzer, we have our own numbers analyzer, does the same thing. But you need to know your numbers. And if nothing else, if you don't know your numbers, it's harder to coach you on why you're not reaching your goals. Give you an example. If you're going on a lot of listing presentations, but you're not getting the contract signed that you want, if you don't track it, it's just words. But if I can actually see you've gone on X amount of appointments and you've only closed on this many deals, it's one of two things. Actually, it's really one thing, but it comes down to two different ideas. The first thing I'm going to say is, how well did you pre-qualify those people? Because if you pre-qualify, you know more about them, which makes the presentation easier. If you don't pre-qualify really well, then you're going in kind of cold on every presentation. But here's the biggie. How many presentations did you go on that weren't real sellers? And because the next question I'll ask you is, go back to all the appointments you went on and find out if they listed at all. And sometimes you'll do that and you'll realize, like, wow, actually, I thought I was only closing 20% of the appointments I'm going on, but 75% of them never listed. So my closing ratio is 80. Yeah, we've succeeded. But it's because you went on so many appointments and you didn't pre-qualify, they weren't real sellers. But I only know that if you track your numbers. Otherwise, I'm just throwing ideas out there. All right, I'm way overboard. So that was it. So those were 12 phrases / words that can help you become a better listing agent. So,
Hey, Robert.
Yes, Michael.
Robert, before
Yes.
you go, I know what you're talking about, the system about follow-up on the database, and also when you're talking about follow-up to be very aggressive and all that. Where do you put texting? It wasn't nowhere to be found over there, what you said on database. So I wonder, is texting somewhere around there?
I mean, I think, Michael, my idea on texting is it's one of those things that if you're having a hard time getting a hold of people, it's a great way to send them something quick, or if you just want to send them like a quick update. But I still don't believe, and this is just me, doesn't make it right or wrong, I still don't believe that texting is enough to replace the actual phone call every 2 months to get you the business that you want. That's me. Could be right, could be wrong, but I do think in a way of sending a quick message, hey, I got this listing, check it out. You know, hey, interest rates just dropped today. Who do you know that might be looking to buy? Or something like that. Like sending a quick message like that, I think is still very powerful. But with leads, I would call, text, email, and do everything. That's that. All right, everybody, I'm way over. I have cut into Fred Salas's prospecting time, and I feel awful about that. So I got to work on my time management. That's number 13, time management. Robert's going to work on that.